About that deadly shooting at Joel Osteen's mega church in Houston, we're seeing new video showing the chaos Sunday as the shots rang out. Police say the shooter was a 36-year-old woman with a history of mental illness.
Joel Osteen, a voice known worldwide for uplifting millions, now faces a personal crisis that could change everything. The man whose ministry inspires faith and hope is confronting a painful reality that shakes the foundation of his family. Behind the pulpit and public acclaim lies a story of loss and resilience. As Joel and his wife navigate this uncertain chapter, questions rise. How will it affect the church, the community, and him personally? This turning point may close one chapter and open another, marked by courage, grief, and renewed hope. The breaking news and its impact. Joel Osteen's ministry faces a profound test as his wife, Victoria Osteen, receives a life-altering diagnosis. The news stunned their family, followers, and the wider faith community, revealing a side of the pastor rarely seen. Known for spreading hope, abundance, and positivity, Joel now confronts heartbreak while guiding a congregation of millions. This moment is deeply personal but carries wider implications, potentially shaping the future of Lakewood Church and his role within it. The community's response was immediate and heartfelt. Social media is filled with prayers, messages of support, and concern for Victoria and her family. Yet beneath these expressions lies uncertainty. Questions about Victoria's ability to continue her leadership, the stability of the church, and Joel's own path forward.
Victoria Osteen, she and her husband Joel Osteen minister to millions on TV every week as co-pastors.
Followers wait, anxious and empathetic, as this deeply human story unfolds. Victoria's condition kind of shines a light on the vulnerability underneath the glossy public image of the Osteen family. For a lot of people, it sort of humanizes a couple that is usually seen through the success lens and that inspiration angle. Their story turns into more than a clean triumph narrative. It's also endurance in real time, showing faith that actually does something even when suffering is there, like right in front of you. It feels like a page that asks supporters to look closely, to see hope, but also the rough edges reality brings, and still hold on to a resilient example when pressure gets heavy. Some insiders are saying this might become a turning point for the ministry itself. Joel's leadership has been anchored on optimism, media outreach, and that big-scale expansion, but now he's dealing with the most personal test so far. Trying to balance running a mega-church while also carrying private struggle, it makes this a narrow path forward, one that demands courage, flexibility, and emotional strength, too. People start to wonder about timing, pacing, about public appearances, and honestly, how Lakewood Church will keep serving millions if things stay uncertain for a while. Even with the weight of everything, Joel is staying steady in his faith. The public remarks underline hope, courage, and spiritual resilience, and it matches the message that has guided him for decades. That kind of openness, mixing vulnerability with leadership, shows how faith gets pressured and then refined through hardship. Like you don't just keep it, you reshape it. As the situation keeps unfolding, the world is watching more than a ministry. It's also watching a family navigating loss, ongoing change, and a lot of unknown space. The impact isn't just personal or medical concerns either. It reaches out into a wider community across the globe that is shaped by belief. Behind the headlines, behind the prayers, there's this slower story of endurance, adaptation, and faith. This feels like both a close and a start, setting the stage for a new journey that will reshape lives, leadership, and the heart of a movement that's built on inspiration. Even as Joel and Victoria grapple with this new reality, the roots of their faith run deep, grounded in a family legacy that offers both history and hope. Roots of faith and vision. Joel Osteen's story starts long before the bright lights of the pulpit and televised sermons. Born in Houston, Texas, Joel grew up as part of a family steeped in faith and bound by a powerful vision. His parents, John and Dodie Osteen, were pioneers who transformed a small church founded in an old feed store into what would become Lakewood Church. From his earliest days, Joel was immersed in a world where faith was not just preached, but lived through every challenge and triumph. The story of Lakewood Church itself is a testament to perseverance and transformation. John and Dodie Osteen opened the church on Mother's Day in 1959 with just 234 seats, serving a community hungry for healing and miracles. By the late 1970s, the congregation had grown to over 5,000 members, becoming a movement defined by hope and renewal. The church's roots in faith healing and charismatic worship shaped not only the community, but also the young Joel, who absorbed these lessons quietly but deeply. Family struggles played a significant role in molding Joel's spiritual outlook. When his sister Lisa was born with severe disabilities, it profoundly affected the family's faith journey. Instead of despair, John and Dodie doubled down on belief in the power of prayer and healing, a commitment that became central to the church's heart and mission. This nurturing environment, focused on hope in the face of hardship, laid the emotional groundwork that continues to influence Joel's ministry today. Although Joel wasn't initially drawn to public preaching, preferring roles behind the scenes, he was close to every aspect of the church's growth. He witnessed firsthand how his parents ministered not just with words but through example, steering the church through financial difficulties and social changes. These experiences instilled in him a respect for leadership grounded in service and steadfastness, even if he did not immediately seek the spotlight himself. His early path kinda leaned more into media and communications, not so much the pulpit. After he graduated from Humble High School in 1981, Joel went to Oral Roberts University to study radio and television, but he left before he finished his degree. People could call that wandering maybe, but it really wasn't. It was more like clarity. He already felt his calling was to push the church's message through television, and a lot of churches back then hadn't quite gotten that medium yet. So yeah, that insight put him in a different lane, and it helped shape what Lakewood would become later on. Starting in 1982, Joel built the church's television ministry up basically from zero. One local station, then national cable, all of it took 17 years of tightening everything up. Production quality, messaging, the whole rhythm. What he did back there, behind the scenes, gave him an almost personal understanding of how to reach and uplift millions without standing on a stage, preaching. And because he really learned how the media works, Lakewood's message traveled way beyond Houston, long before he even became senior pastor. Preaching showed up kind of late for him. He kept declining invitations from his father, John, thinking John was the main preacher in the family, like the obvious choice. But in January 1999, fate just moved. That's when Joel delivered his first sermon. Nervous, sure, but sincere too, mixing in family stories and some humor. Then a few days later, his father passed suddenly, and it left a real leadership gap at the church. In a way, Joel got pulled into a role he never planned on, but it was still like he was meant for it. That early foundation, where family, faith, and media savvy kinda collided, molded Joel Osteen into the kind of leader who would soon take Lakewood Church from a regional congregation into something global. Even now, those lessons still seem to echo through his approach to ministry, where storytelling, positivity, and real connection still stay at the center of it all. The legacy built by his parents provided not only a platform, but a blueprint for how faith and media could combine to reach millions with a message of hope. Rise to prominence. Joel Osteen's journey from behind-the-scenes broadcaster to one of the world's most recognizable televangelists is a story of vision, timing, and media mastery. When he became senior pastor of Lakewood Church in 1999, he had limited preaching experience and little formal theological training. Stepping into his father's massive legacy was daunting, yet his uplifting, motivational style immediately resonated with the congregation, fueling a ministry on the rise. Within 5 years, Lakewood's weekend attendance grew from 6,000 to over 25,000. Joel leveraged media strategically, doubling the church's TV airtime, securing prime slots in major markets, and using billboards to project Lakewood's name far beyond Houston. His sermons, focusing on hope, gratitude, and personal growth rather than sin and judgment, appealed to audiences weary of traditional fire and brimstone preaching. While critics dismissed his style as Christian light, attendance and broadcast ratings soared, confirming the power of his approach. A landmark moment came in 2003 when Lakewood leased Houston's former NBA arena, the Compaq Center. The church invested $158 million in renovations, creating a modern worship space with classrooms, media rooms, and even indoor waterfalls. By 2005, the 16,000-seat sanctuary opened to a packed house, watched by millions worldwide, cementing Lakewood's place as one of America's largest churches. Joel's influence extended beyond the pulpit. His best-selling book, Your Best Life Now, sold over 4 million copies, staying on the New York Times bestseller list for nearly 4 years. Speaking engagements, merchandise, and appearances on mainstream platforms like Oprah and Larry King broadened his reach, appealing to secular and religious audiences alike. Social media amplified his presence, with tens of millions of followers turning him into a digital influencer capable of inspiring with a sermon or a tweet. His Night of Hope tour evolved from a church event to arena-filling gatherings, proving his message's broad appeal. By blending faith, motivational speaking, and media savvy, Joel built an empire that redefined modern pastoral leadership. This period of rapid growth marked a high point for Lakewood Church, showcasing the combination of vision, cultural resonance, and marketing acumen that would shape Joel's global platform. While Controversies would later test his ministry, this era stands as a testament to how accessible messaging, bold decisions, and media mastery can transform a local church into a worldwide phenomenon. Behind every soaring ministry lie complex roots: faith, family, ambition, and the unexpected trials that test even the strongest convictions. Controversies and challenges. Joel Osteen's rise to global prominence has not been without scrutiny. One of the most notable controversies occurred during Hurricane Harvey in 2017, when Lakewood Church initially kept its doors closed while much of Houston suffered flooding. Images showing the church grounds dry sparked backlash, raising questions about priorities and leaving a lasting impact on the ministry's public perception. Critics argued the church had appeared more focused on image than immediate relief. Financial transparency has also been a recurring issue. With an annual budget of nearly $90 million, reports indicated that only around 1.3% went to missions and outreach. Much of the spending focused on television broadcasting, weekly services, high-profile events like Night of Hope, administration, and fundraising. Donors and observers questioned whether the church's financial practices aligned with its spiritual mission. Osteen's teachings on prosperity have drawn theological criticism. Emphasizing health, wealth, and success as signs of God's favor, his message has been described by some as overly simplistic. Critics warn that it risks blaming believers for their struggles, implying a lack of faith if they face hardship. Some theologians have labeled this approach cotton candy gospel, suggesting it lacks depth and neglects the harsher realities of Christian doctrine. His reluctance to tackle sin, judgment, and repentance in sermons has kept feeding the ongoing debate. Sure hope-leaning messages land well with plenty of people, but traditional pastors say the whole style leans more toward comfort than conviction, and they see a really obvious ideological divide inside Christian teaching. Legal and safety stuff has also done damage to Lakewood's public image, kind of in a slow-burning way. In 2011, the church got hit with a lawsuit over unauthorized song use. Then, in 2014, there was that incident, an usher allegedly mishandling a child's car seat, and it ended with a settlement. Still, a bunch of folks walked away wondering who really held responsibility. Security continues to be a big focus, too, especially after the 2024 shooting during a Spanish-language service that injured a child. That event exposed vulnerabilities in the church's open layout. Joel responded with prayers and calls for faith, That helped some people feel steadier, but others wanted wider talk on gun safety and mental health, instead of only spiritual reassurance. More controversy popped up in 2020, when Lakewood accepted a $4.4 million federal Paycheck Protection Program loan during COVID-19. Critics argued it wasn't really necessary, pointing to the church's overall budget and also Joel's estimated personal fortune of $50 to $100 million. The church repaid the loan in 2021, but discussion about megachurch finances didn't really stop. It just shifted to different angles. While Joel does not take a salary from Lakewood directly, the income from books, speaking gigs, and merchandise sits in contrast with the outreach spending that many describe as rather modest. For a lot of observers, these issues create the feeling that the church functions almost like a brand, rather than only a spiritual institution. Even so, Joel's leadership seems mostly stable, yet the ministry's priorities, messaging, and practices keep pulling in close public scrutiny, and that is still shaping people's perception. The controversies surrounding Lakewood Church weave into a broader narrative of both spiritual influence and imperfection, as faith meets the complexities of modern ministry. The woman behind the ministry. Victoria Osteen has grown from a supportive spouse to a prominent leader and co-pastor at Lakewood Church. Her visible leadership began in 2003 with the launch of the Lakewood Church Women's Ministry, reaching thousands annually. Her ability to connect with women and the broader congregation has made her a key complement to Joel's message, offering encouragement, faith guidance, and relatability. Her influence expanded with the 2008 release of Love Your Life, debuting at number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. Victoria's calm confidence and approachable style have resonated widely, boosting her visibility on stage, in the media, and through television appearances. She further broadened her reach with her 2025 podcast, Victoria and Friends, bringing discussions about faith and life directly into homes worldwide. Victoria's upbringing is kind of a blend of science and faith, right? Her father at NASA and her mother a Sunday school teacher, so she gets this perspective that feels unusual but also very grounded. When she met Joel in Houston and then married him in 1987, it kind of formed a partnership.
The married co-pastors of one of America's largest churches, watched by millions around the world,
That mixes home life with professional life, and that strengthens Lakewood's legacy in a way that doesn't feel accidental. Together, they have raised 2 children, Jonathan and Alexandra, both involved in worship and ministry, which keeps the family tradition of service going again and again. Her being co-pastor and mother shows resilience, especially as she deals with personal health challenges. And honestly, those struggles shine a light on the kind of emotional and spiritual support she gives Joel, the church, and millions of followers. By sharing her journey through adversity, Victoria makes leadership feel more human, like faith isn't only for the moments when everything works, but also in the vulnerability, in the places that don't look impressive from the outside. Through her evolving presence, Victoria enriches Lakewood's message of hope, showing how ministry has to flex when life throws the unexpected. Her story really underlines compassion, strength, and partnership. Like, enduring faith and leadership don't run on perfection. They need balance, courage, and authenticity. As Joel and Victoria keep guiding the church side by side, her influence stays right in the center of Lakewood's identity, weaving faith, family, and resilience into a narrative that's both inspiring and quietly, profoundly real. As the ministry faces an uncertain future, its unified strength offers both a beacon and a promise in turbulent times. Looking ahead, faith amidst uncertainty. Victoria Osteen's recent health diagnosis marks a pivotal moment for her, Joel, and Lakewood Church. As one of the world's most visible spiritual leaders faces a personal trial, questions arise about how this will shape his ministry. Balancing private struggle with public leadership is delicate, especially when millions look to Joel for hope. This chapter demands resilience, faith, and adaptability, in the face of life's unpredictability. Joel's message of positivity may evolve, moving from abstract encouragement to lived testimony. Walking this journey alongside his wife could deepen the church's connection with congregants, offering a real example of faith enduring through vulnerability and challenge. The personal story becomes a universal lesson, inviting engagement and empathy across generations. Lakewood Church might have to sort of rethink how it supports leaders and members when crises hit, like expanding pastoral care, adding mental health resources, and being more candid about life's struggles could really help tighten up community bonds. Joel's mastery of media lets this story travel to a huge audience, so authenticity and transparency end up being kind of the core of spiritual leadership, not just a side note. Victoria's ongoing role in ministry, even with the challenges there, plus the fact that their children are involved, points to this multi-generational approach. It keeps Lakewood's legacy alive while also making room for change. Still, people will wonder about perception, finances, and messaging, and those questions haven't vanished. But honestly, those same pressures can become opportunities to reset priorities and deepen faith without pretending everything is easy. In the end, Joel and Victoria's journey carries hope in the middle of uncertainty. It suggests faith isn't only about wins or prosperity, but endurance, trust, and surrender, like the long part of life. Their story becomes a kind of template for modern spiritual leadership, one where vulnerability, resilience, and community shape the road ahead. Joel Osteen's journey reminds us that even the brightest lights can face shadows. As he and Victoria confront this new chapter, their story becomes a powerful example of faith tested and hope renewed. If you found this story meaningful, please like and subscribe for more insights into the lives behind the headlines, and watch the next video on the screen to uncover another inspiring story that will uplift and surprise you.